Everywhere you look, the message is the same. Billionaires, financial advisors, and investing gurus repeat it like a mantra. Stay invested. Don't try to time the market. And most importantly, cash is trash. You've probably heard it so many times that it feels like an unquestionable truth. So you follow the rules. You invest consistently into index funds, ETFs, maybe a few blue chip stocks. You keep a small emergency fund 3 to 6 months of expenses because that's what you're told is responsible. Everything else goes into the market. On paper, you're doing everything right. But then you notice something strange. The very people giving this advice don't actually follow it the same way. By the end of 2024, Warren Buffett was sitting on over $300 billion in cash through Berkshire Hathaway, not aggressively deployed in stocks, not fully invested in real estate, just sitting there in cash and cash equivalents, exposed to the same inflation he warns against. And he's not the only one. Across the ultra-wealthy, it's common to see 20% to 30% of total portfolios held in cash or near cash assets. That's not a small emergency fund. That's a strategic reserve. And it raises an uncomfortable question. If cash is really so useless, why do the richest people in the world hold so much of it? To understand this, you have to stop thinking of financial advice as neutral information and start seeing it as part of a system. Imagine you're sitting at a poker table. The best players don't openly share their real strategy with everyone else at the table. Instead, they present a version of their strategy that benefits them if others follow it. The financial world operates in a similar way. According to wealth surveys, high net worth individuals consistently maintain a significant portion of their assets in cash, not because they're afraid, but because cash gives them something most investors lack: flexibility. When markets crash, most people are fully invested. Their money is locked inside assets that have just dropped in value. They don't have spare capital to take advantage of lower prices. The wealthy, on the other hand, are prepared. They sit patiently with what's often called dry powder. When panic hits and prices fall, they deploy that cash into discounted assets. This is why market crashes often widen the wealth gap instead of shrinking it. The average investor rides the market down. The wealthy buy their way back up. There's also a deeper incentive structure at play that rarely gets discussed. The financial industry doesn't make money when your cash is sitting idle. Advisors, fund managers, and institutions generate revenue based on assets under management. If your money is invested, they earn fees. If it's sitting in cash, they don't. Even a seemingly small 1% management fee becomes significant over time. For every $100,000 you invest, that's $1,000 per year going to someone else. Multiply that across millions of clients, and you begin to understand why the industry strongly encourages full investment. The advice you receive isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not entirely aligned with your best interests either. It's optimized for a system that profits from keeping your money in motion. Cash, in contrast, represents independence. It's money that isn't generating fees for anyone else, and that alone makes it less attractive to promote. But the differences don't stop there. The wealthy also operate under a completely different set of financial rules that most people never even learn about. One of the most powerful strategies they use is often summarized as buy, borrow, die. The idea is simple but incredibly effective. First, they buy assets that appreciate over time, like stocks or real estate. As these assets grow in value, they don't sell them, because selling would trigger taxes. Instead, when they need money, they borrow against those assets using low-interest loans. Since loans aren't considered income, they're not taxed. This allows them to access liquidity without ever selling their investments. Finally, when they pass away, those assets are transferred to their heirs with a stepped-up tax basis, meaning the capital gains tax on decades of growth essentially disappears. Compare that to the average investor who sells assets to fund their lifestyle and pays taxes on every gain. The same market, the same investments, but completely different outcomes because of access to different strategies. Another key difference lies in access itself. The wealthy don't just invest more, they invest differently. A significant portion of their portfolios is allocated to private investments that aren't available to the general public. These include private equity, venture capital, and exclusive real estate deals. To legally access many of these opportunities, you need to qualify as an accredited investor, which requires a high income or net worth. As a result, the average person is often limited to public markets like stocks and ETFs, while the wealthy diversify into areas with potentially higher returns and less volatility. This creates a gap not just in how much people invest, but in what they're able to invest in. So when you hear blanket advice like, just buy index funds, it's worth remembering that the people giving that advice are often following a much broader and more complex strategy behind the scenes. Then there's something called the poverty premium, which highlights how expensive it can be to not have cash. When you're low on liquidity, even small financial shocks become costly. A car repair, a medical bill, or an unexpected expense forces you to rely on credit, often at high interest rates. A $2,000 emergency can quickly turn into $3,000 or more once interest is added. The wealthy rarely face this problem. They have enough cash on hand to cover unexpected costs immediately, often negotiating discounts for paying upfront. In many cases, simply having cash allows them to pay less for the exact same goods and services. Over time, this creates a compounding advantage. While one person is paying extra due to lack of liquidity, another is saving money because of it. The gap widens quietly, not through dramatic investments, but through everyday financial efficiency. So when you put all of this together, the contradiction starts to make sense. The advice to stay fully invested isn't entirely wrong, but it's incomplete. It assumes you're playing the same game as the people giving the advice, when in reality, you're not. They have access to better tools, better strategies, and better opportunities. Cash, for them, isn't a drag on performance, it's a strategic asset. It provides optionality, security, and the ability to act when others can't, for you. Blindly following simplified advice can actually remove those advantages. This doesn't mean you should pull all your money out of the market and sit entirely in cash. That would be an overcorrection. The real lesson here is balance and awareness. Instead of treating cash as wasted potential, you can start viewing it as a form of control. It's what allows you to handle emergencies without debt, take advantage of opportunities when they arise, and avoid being forced into bad decisions during market downturns. The exact amount will vary depending on your situation, but the principle remains the same. Liquidity has value, even if it doesn't show up as a return on paper. At the end of the day, the biggest difference between the wealthy and everyone else isn't just how much money they have, it's how they think about money. They prioritize flexibility over maximum exposure. They value optionality over rigid strategies. And most importantly, they don't rely on one-size-fits-all advice. They understand the system they're operating in and adjust accordingly. Once you start seeing things through that lens, the contradiction disappears. The rich aren't being hypocritical, they're playing a different game. And once you understand the rules of that game, you can start making decisions that actually work in your favor, instead of just following advice that was never fully meant for you in the first place.